What is up, mental patients? My name is Tormental, and I am a YouTuber, unfortunately. I'm someone who has been doing YouTube videos for several years, about 4 or 5 years. It's crazy to think about, and it makes me sad. Somebody who almost reached 15,000 subscribers, was at 14,900 something, and then the apocalypse hit, and then all this stuff hit, and what do you know? What do you know? I'm dropping back down. Dropping back down in subscribers, not getting recommended. Seems like I'm shadow banned, but who knows? So with that incredible bias and that bad taste in my mouth, I wanted to sit down and sort of take a look at this Creator Insider video that came out recently. It was recommended to me by YouTube's little widget on their studio when you log in and you check your stuff. It recommends that you watch videos on how to connect with your audience, how to retain an audience, how to be a good little YouTuber. And so this came up, and I looked at it, and I really felt like it was worth reacting to. I'm sorry to use that word. But yeah, so I'm going to get right into it. I'm not going to give you too much more information. This is an update about YouTube's community guidelines.
Hello, insiders! Newsflash time. Let's start with community.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there. This might take a while. I don't know how many times I'm going to interject here, but hello, insiders. We're just garbage to YouTube. Creators are basically garbage to YouTube unless you're like one of the top tier people. And even then, sometimes you get treated like garbage and banned for no reason. So this insiders thing is like, I don't know. I don't really drink the Kool-Aid on this one. Sorry about that.
Community guidelines update. So there's a broad effort going on to prevent abuse on the platform, something that we've always been doing.
Now, he says that there's an effort to prevent abuse on the platform, but going forward, we're going to hear very little about actual abuse. It's going to just be about what types of content they would prefer you didn't do. There is some talk of abuse, but not much.
But one of the things that we're focusing on now is strengthening the enforcement of our community guidelines policies.
All right. So yeah, they're strengthening enforcement. So all the people out there who have been concerned and talking about the fact that YouTube acts arbitrarily and randomly, don't worry. They're not going to act randomly anymore. They're going to be arbitrary toward everyone, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem people have had with YouTube, from what I've seen, is not that their enforcement isn't strict enough. It's that it's too arbitrary and nonsensical. So we can look forward, I guess, to more arbitrary and nonsensical enforcement in the future. That's a great update. Thank you.
And making sure that enforcement is also more consistent.
Yeah, just more often.
So one of the things that creators may not immediately realize is that those community guidelines apply to all of the content.
What you may not realize is that community guidelines apply to all the content. I mean, he's going to go on to clarify, but this is not anything anybody didn't know, I don't think. There may be some... I mean, in every group of people, there are some real, dumbasses, some real... bottom-of-the-barrel folks who are not going to understand that rules apply to them and what they do, as well as everybody else. But I think those people are called YouTube because they don't apply their rules consistently for the top people. Like, if you go on Vivo, if you go on, different music video sites, you can see the big old titties just up in your face. Bare-ass titties. You could see, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you're also disallowing everybody else from anything even remotely questionable, anything remotely lewd. But you're not really applying it like that. So when we don't realize that community guidelines apply to everything, it's because you don't apply it to people you like. It's not that we don't think it applies to ourselves. If anything, I think that YouTubers are more than aware that community guidelines apply to everything they do, and they'd better watch their ass.
That you put on the platform. So it's not just your videos, but it's also your thumbnails, links to other sites.
Yeah, links to other sites. Like Twitch, maybe? I don't know.
And what we want to make sure is that all of that stuff is consistent with the guidelines. So as an example, for a long time, we've prohibited linking to external sites that have pornography.
AKA DeviantArt, Tumblr. Well, I guess not Tumblr anymore. Pretty much, this is a big problem here because this is a broad statement. You're not allowed to link to any sites that have pornography. Now, I know this would be arbitrary and silly, but that would include DeviantArt. You can't link to DeviantArt at all because also on the site they have pornography. Do I think that they'll enforce that and say nobody can ever link to DeviantArt? No. Do I think that they might use that against some people who link to DeviantArt? Yes. I think that this is going to be one of those things where it's like a questionable statement with no real detail that can be used however they see fit. Just a guess there.
Or malware. If we detect a outbound link to a site that has that's not consistent with our guidelines, then that will result in the link being removed.
All right, so not consistent with our guidelines now. We've gone from having porn and malware. I just want to point out that now it's if the link is not consistent with our guidelines. Now their guidelines are various and labyrinthian in terms of trying to get actual definite meaning out of certain things. So one of the things that's against guidelines is like hate speech. Hate speech is, of course, against their guidelines, and I would expect it to be, and I would want it to be. However, as we know, it's not enforced very properly. So I would say that if he's changing it now to if your link is to anything against our guidelines, that would mean that you better not link anything where even a single person is saying anything hateful. No forums, no message boards, no Discord links. No links to anything. No links to YouTube, because YouTube has all of the stuff that they're saying you can't post. YouTube has pornography on it. YouTube has hate speech. YouTube has all these different things that are against their guidelines. So you can't link to YouTube in your YouTube description. Okay, let's move on here.
But also results in a community guideline strike. And as you may know, after you receive a certain number of strikes, your channel could be terminated.
And also your channel could be terminated without any strikes as well if they so choose.
So you really want to be careful about where you link to from your videos.
Be careful, everybody. Or don't be careful. It doesn't really matter. You still could just go away. You still could be abducted into the night for no fucking reason.
So next, on that topic, another example is that for a long time we've also rejected custom thumbnails that violate the community guidelines.
Yeah, I could see that. I have no real. This isn't going to be like a big, huge argument here with a video that can't even hear me. I have no problem with this statement about thumbnails and everything like that. What I would say though is that they don't actually police the thumbnails. Now they're saying they're going to do it more. I don't believe them. But what about all those thumbnails for Fortnite videos where it's showing something that isn't in Fortnite and they're saying this is in Fortnite now? Or all those videos where they're like free V-Bucks and there's nothing related to that in the video. Just the videos that use artwork from other things and other movies and television shows and all sorts of other things, basically with no real connection to what the video is, just to try to get clicks. Clickbait, essentially. I don't believe they're actually going to police all of that. So while I don't disagree with the idea of keeping thumbnails safe or whatever, I think that's a good thing. You don't want to just have a bunch of thumbnails full of shit. I don't think that they're going to stop it. Are they going to stop thumbnails with, like, people or animals or whatever getting, gruesomely killed? I don't know. I see those recommended to me all the time. But, yeah.
So what typically happens is if we detect that the thumbnail is not consistent with those guidelines, we will reject that thumbnail.
Now, I'm wondering about the detection here. Do you think that they have an advanced AI capable of detecting automatically what's wrong in an image? Or do you think they're talking about quote-unquote detecting in that it will be reported by people employed by YouTube, either volunteers or employees, going through and picking out what they don't like? The second option seems more realistic to me.
If we see repeat offenses from the same channel, we will then often remove the privilege of being able to use custom thumbnails for some period of time. And then if we see repeated violations beyond that or egregious violations, it could also result in a channel termination.
And again, your channel can be terminated with no warning and no previous violations, so whatever.
Be really careful about your custom thumbnails, especially like an egregious violation would be if it included pornography in it. But that's the most egregious. There's also like
the most egregious would be pornography, not a picture of like somebody bashing a baby against a wall or something. That would not be the most egregious. The most egregious would be like a boobie. Okay, YouTube. All right. Good God.
Other types of thumbnails that are not approved, or characteristics that are not approved, and I'll link below for the specific community guidelines. One other quick point I would make is not only should you be mindful of your thumbnails to make sure that it's consistent with the community guidelines, but it's also a really important thing to help your videos get discovered.
I would say it's more important for YouTube to be mindful of how they're running their company. Is YouTube profitable yet? Maybe, I don't know. I haven't kept close track of that. Is YouTube suffering from an incredible PR disaster with viewers and content creators both being dissatisfied with your platform? Yes. Is your company seemingly tone deaf to everything suggested and desired and demanded from its users? Yes. I think that telling content creators to be mindful is a bit hypocritical when the company itself is not mindful of anything outside of its bubble.
Because what you want is a thumbnail that will represent the content, but also be appealing to viewers. And not only will we remove the thumbnail if we find the thumbnail is outside the guidelines that we provide for the community guidelines, but if we find that the thumbnail is misleading, it also gets recommended less. So
all right, so you heard it here. If your thumbnail is determined to be quote-unquote misleading, according to an employee of YouTube or a volunteer working with YouTube, if your video is determined to have a misleading thumbnail, it will be shadow banned. He just said it will be recommended less. It will be, drawn back. It will not be shown to people. This is an admission right here of the fact that they do recommend videos less if their team doesn't like the content, doesn't like the thumbnail, thinks it's misleading or offensive or whatever. Now, this is a problem because if you have a 2-hour video, and in your 2-hour video you talk about PewDiePie, like for 10 minutes, and you put PewDiePie as your thumbnail, now maybe that would be misleading because the whole 2 hours isn't about that. But you did talk about him in your video, so why can't you use him on the thumbnail? I mean, he is covered as a topic in it. So someone working for this company is not going to sit there and watch a 2-hour video in the middle of their workday. They would be doing that for thousands of videos. They would be spending thousands and thousands of hours per day, which doesn't work, watching videos all the way through to see if the content is there. So what's going to happen is people are going to make random judgment calls. They're going to see a thumbnail of PewDiePie, and maybe somebody has reported it because they don't like the YouTuber, or they like PewDiePie, or they don't like what was said. So somebody's going to report that video maybe. It's going to come before someone who's going to say, here's the thumbnail of PewDiePie. I listened to like 2 minutes of the beginning, and it's not about PewDiePie. He's talking about a different subject. Boom, misleading thumbnail. Even though the guy was mentioned later in the video. So that's what's going to happen with stuff like this. That's what does currently happen. Because people do get strikes and people do get warnings and they do get things like that when it's just clear that someone hasn't actually reviewed the video. I've had videos where there's no offensive content in it, but there's like some word in the title, like fight or battle or war or something like that, and it gets like demonetized. It gets marked as not suitable for all advertisers. And in that case, I specifically know, and it gets upheld on review. Like I mark it for review saying, listen, there's nothing in here offensive. It still gets upheld. That means that the person who upheld it did not actually look at the video. So this is what happens. You get shadow banned. You get shadow blocked. They don't recommend you. They don't show you to people. And I would assume your videos, they start not showing up in people's subscription feeds, even though they're subscribed to you. Basically, they're just kind of, doing a little bit of sneaky assassination on your channel. But yeah, that's just my take on it. I could be wrong. Who knows? But all evidence seems to back that up, including the statement in this video that you will be shadow blocked and hidden if your thumbnail is misleading by their standards.
Your kind of ideal spot is you've got a thumbnail that's appealing, but it's also accurate and representative of the content, and also for sure, abides by the community guidelines.
It would be good for them to give us guidelines on what is related to the content. Like a guideline that says you can't have a person in the thumbnail unless the entire video is about them. Or, just make some guidelines. Let us know what's going to get us in hot water, because right now it's just a guessing game. YouTube tells us to be careful what we do, but then it doesn't tell us exactly what, would be wrong in that scenario. So how are we supposed to watch out for what we don't know? I don't know. Kind of have to guess and stay at one step ahead of them, I guess.
All right, I digress. So more about the community guidelines. Challenges and pranks. Well, many of us enjoy a good prank video from time to time.
Greetings, fellow kids. Boy, I do sure love a good prank video from time to time.
But there are types of challenges and prank videos that we won't allow and will remove and issue a strike. And then there are some that we will allow, but we will age restrict who can see it. And we've gotten some feedback from creators, including on Creator Insider, that, hey, can you be a little bit more specific about what you consider harmful and dangerous when it comes to a challenge or a prank?
All right. So they got some demands or some requests that they be more specific about what they're doing. And so they're going to let us know, I guess. That's good. I wish they would do this more often on a larger scale, on a much larger scale. Why is it that you're just listening to the prank YouTubers? I don't understand that. The prank YouTubers have a special place that needs to be answered, whereas everybody else is kind of just left to rot.
So let me give you some more details that I took some notes from my meeting with the guidelines team. Here's an example of a challenge that would not be allowed on the platform, would be removed, and would result in a strike to a channel. If there's a challenge that presents risk of death or feature.
All right, so risk of death. If there's a challenge that presents risk of death, so we are not going to see any late night show hosts presenting any stuntmen who may be fatally injured doing the stunt in any regard. No motorcyclists jumping anything. No, you get what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying. They're of course going to continue to show and not remove or limit plenty of stunts in which life and death are on the line, if it's from the right creators.
Features a minor participating, and it poses imminent risk of severe injury to that minor. That's just not allowed, period.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's pretty hard to argue with.
Will be removed, will be struck. Here's another example of something that is just not allowed at all. If you have a challenge or a prank that involves an unsuspecting victim.
I like to pause it right there. That's not the end of what he says, but I just like the idea of you can't have a prank if the victim is unsuspecting. They have to be fully informed of the prank beforehand. I mean, that's not what he's going to say. But I like that idea. Okay.
Believing that they are in physical danger.
Alright, so you can't have a prank where the target believes they're in physical danger. So that means you can't walk up behind them in a mask and tap them on the shoulder. Because when they turn around, they're going to think you're a monster or a serial killer, meaning they think that they're in danger. So for a split second, they're going to be jump scared by you. So that's no good because they can't believe that they're in danger. So no more wearing a mask and going boo.
That's not.
My point there, I should clarify. My point there being that that's so open-ended and wide in scope that you can apply that to anything.
That goes beyond the realm of what's allowed. If the challenge or prank involves real physical harm, results in real physical harm.
So if a prank or challenge goes wrong, you can't have it. I guess that takes out like half the skateboarding videos on YouTube where somebody falls and skins their knee.
Or involves emotional distress.
Oh, it can't involve emotional distress. Okay, no more pranks where Jimmy Kimmel is telling you to tell your child he ate his candy. No more videos of anything related to that, except we know they will continue to be allowed and they will continue to be monetized from the right users. Again, this is just a bunch of crap. This is just going to be applied to you and me, but not to any of the high rollers, any of the bigwigs.
To minors. Okay, so those are just not allowed, period. Now there's other kinds of challenges and pranks that are allowed, but then are age restricted, so they may not be accessible by all YouTube viewers.
I have a question for you. How old do you have to be to sign up for YouTube? What is it, 13? So what are we talking about here? Pranks that 13-year-olds can't say? Age restricted? Why is it that YouTube doesn't allow you on the site, doesn't allow you to register and everything until you're a certain age, and yet the content is supposed to be okay for like 5-year-olds and shit? That's an interesting question, don't you think? Seems like it's a bit backward and silly and stupid and arbitrary and actually not really to protect the users, but actually just to throttle certain content while promoting that same exact type of content from other creators, like YouTube itself creating content that violates its own rules. You know, it's obvious. It's obvious that this is rules for thee, but not for me. You know, whatever.
So what are examples? So if there are adults in a dangerous situation with high risk of injury, that could be age restricted. It may still be allowed, but it might be age restricted. If the primary purpose is educational.
You know what? They age restricted a video of a guy using a fire extinguisher on his friend. And they're talking about if there's adults in situations of high-risk situations and risk of death and stuff like that. You age-restricted a video of someone using a fire extinguisher improperly. Give me a break.
Scientific, documentary, or art, but it depicts dangerous challenges, that could be age-restricted. And in fact, if it's gratuitously graphic, it may not even be allowed. But if it's not gratuitously graphic, and even if its primary purpose is for entertainment, documentary, science, or art, but it depicts dangerous challenges, that could be age restricted.
All right, so no footage of storming Normandy Beach because boy howdy was that a dangerous fucking challenge. I mean, it's there for educational purposes, it's there for historical purposes, but that doesn't make it okay. Don't show any of these people. Don't show any of these people storming the beach. No, that's not allowed here. By the way, YouTube was started because the creators wanted a place to host Janet Jackson's nipple slip from the halftime show at the Super Bowl. That's why YouTube was started. The two people who created it, from what I've read, and this is stuff I've read on the internet, so take it with a grain of salt, whatever. They supposedly couldn't find a platform that would allow them to post Janet Jackson's boob hanging out. So they created YouTube in part because they wanted a place where people could upload whatever they wanted. Now we're left with this. Now we're left in 2019 with this crap. Where it's like, if people are in possible danger, or if, there might be some of this or some of that, we might restrict it or delete it or ban you, who knows? If we determine that it was kind of a little bit sketchy and a little icky, and we don't like it, you may have to go bye-bye. I mean, I'm not advocating for an open platform where anything goes. Far from that. When I see a video endangering some kid or something, like if somebody's, wailing on a kid or whatever, I report that shit, and I look back and wonder why it was never deleted, because they never fucking do. But yeah, I'm not advocating for that, but I am advocating for a platform where we actually are all adults and we know where we stand, and we're not treated like you're just some kids that, you'll understand when you're older why we're punishing you and why we're doing this and why we're doing that. You can't understand it right now. You're just silly content creators. I don't understand what this treatment is that we get, where we're given like this hazy kind of thing of, if there's a situation where adults are in danger, you can't show it. So I guess you can't have any videos of people eating dinner together because they're in danger of choking. Now, that's an extreme example, but that is something they could pull on somebody they don't like because they've left the rules open-ended. They've left it open enough where they could justifiably say that and take down your video for whatever reason they may see fit.
Another one that could be age restricted if it involves a lot of fake blood, gore, gruesome injuries.
It could be age restricted if you use special effects. Let that one sink in.
Simulated deaths.
Simulated deaths. You can't pretend to die. You can't pretend to die in a YouTube video.
Where the unsuspecting victim is an adult. That could be age restricted. For some people, they might be thinking, whoa, these are a lot of rules, like maybe you've been on the platform for a long time.
Is anybody out there thinking, and let me put on the voice he put on for what he imagines content creators to be like, does anybody out there think, whoa, these are a lot of rules, I don't like them? I don't think that we think these are a lot of rules. I think that we think they are open-ended rules that you don't apply to larger channels and people that you're courting from the, broadcast television side of things, or cable television. I think that it's not applied evenly, and I don't think when you say in this video we're strengthening community guidelines and enforcing them better, I don't really think that you're going to be doing that, because I don't think you believe it's a problem that late night shows and YouTube original movies and music videos and things like that get to do a ton of shit worse than you will allow anyone else to even approach. I don't think you can do that.
And you just weren't aware of these restrictions or these guidelines, or you weren't aware that we enforce it the way we have been or will be even more actively. So during this initial period, since we're just announcing it around now, our bias is going to be just to remove videos and not issue a strike, right away.
Oh, cool. Don't worry, guys. You're not going to get a strike right away. They're just going to remove your video suddenly without warning. Don't worry. Settle down, everyone. They're just going to remove your content.
This will give creators a little bit of time to kind of get used to the new enforcement expectations. And if you have a video that was uploaded prior to this announcement, it may still be removed, but we wouldn't issue a strike because maybe I think we're trying to kind of be as gradual and kind of reasonable as we can.
Okay, so that's a lot of maybe, probably, I think. So this is not a definite thing here. So you might not get a strike, maybe, probably, I think. Okay, that's good to know.
So you don't feel like, hey, I uploaded this thing 2 years ago, it was never a problem, and then all of a sudden I got a strike. But it could still be removed. If your content is rejected or you do receive a strike, you will always get an email alert, and you'll also see it in your channel settings in Studio.
Hooray!
So that's another reason why a lot of creators, the email address that they've given us that's associated with the channel, sometimes it's not an email that they check.
How do you know? You just said that a lot of the times the email address that people give you is one they don't check. How do you know that? How do you know that users aren't checking the email address they gave you in a lot of cases? It sounds like a random statement that is not based on any actual information. I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know. It's a minor nitpick, but it goes to the greater picture of just, saying things that sound good. Not necessarily true, but that sound good.
Maybe they created it like years ago. So you may want to review that and update your email so that you can get these kinds of important notifications. These decisions, if you feel like, hey, my content was removed or I received a strike, but I read the guidelines and I'm absolutely sure that this meets the community guidelines, you can still appeal it, and
you could still appeal it, be ignored, and get rejected.
We will re-review it, but what we recommend is right now is a great time to review all of your videos, all of your thumbnails, all of your links. Make sure they're kind of tip-top.
Alright, I tell you what, I'll go through and review my almost 3,000 fucking videos and thumbnails that have been generating money for you for several years. I'll go and do that right away, sure.
And then you can just avoid any of this affecting you. But hopefully, the result of this is that the creators that are producing, original content that viewers really like, that's responsible, that's safe, that's
So the people who are creating good content that viewers like and is safe, as opposed to all the rest of us who are creating bad content that viewers hate and is dangerous, do you understand that some of your top-rated channels are doing the things that you're talking about? So, talking about people making good content that's safe and that viewers like, the top content that viewers like is a lot of the times quite risky. Like the prank channels, the challenge channels, the late night shows, having on people doing challenges and pranks. Yeah, a lot of the top videos are like people falling and people, getting injured, car chases, different things like that. I mean, it kind of baffles me that YouTube thinks content people like and is safe. They think that goes together. The content people like is risky. The content people like is dangerous. Humans throughout history have loved watching a fucking disaster. Humans are wired. We're geared to tune in when we see a traffic accident, when we see a terrorist attack or something. We're geared in our brains to be like, I have to see this footage. I have to see what happened. I have to know. I want to know what happened. I want to know what occurred. I want to be informed. You know, we're wired that way. We're wired to be alert to disaster and harm. So the idea that YouTube thinks content people like is going to be the really safe content, and that's the good content, just shows how little they understand about human nature or how human beings work. I mean, even in comedy, this is something a lot of people don't like, and a lot of people don't realize. In comedy, people like that element of danger and risk. They like not knowing if a comedian's going to go too far, if they're going to say something really terrible and heinous. That's part of why people laugh, is that part of that nervousness in a lot of cases. Like, you know, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. You know, people are naturally drawn to risk and danger. And the fact that they don't understand that basic human quality and say, the creators who are making good content that people like, you know, the safe content, it's just baffling. And I hate to go off on a tangent there, and a lot of you may disagree with me on that one, but, you know, it's my video, so whatever.
It's appropriate. We'll get more opportunities. And
appropriate, too. The content has to be appropriate. Never mind the fact that, as I've said before, there are millions of views on music videos with women with their tits hanging out. No, it has to be appropriate for people to like it. Yeah, sure.
We can kind of protect the viewer experience, which in the long run is good for creators too. Okay, so that is all the stuff about the community guidelines.
And we have learned essentially nothing. He goes on to talk about some other updates with this and give a shout out to somebody. I don't know who Felix Booster is, but I'm assuming this is somebody that has some deal with YouTube to get promoted and shit like that. I don't know. As usual, the inner circle is at Workle. But yeah, that's Creator Insider. That's this video. That's all I'm going to really look at with it, because I'm not going to go into all the other crap that they talk about. New features and blah, 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 blah. I just thought that this was really interesting how we basically know nothing more now than we did before, except for the fact that it's going to get worse.